Hey guys, Sean C. Phillips here. Welcome to December 26th DVD update, where I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I always say, guys, if you enjoy these updates, definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave me comments below what you guys saw, the titles I checked out this update, any titles coming up which you guys would like me to review for future updates, and some of the things you guys have picked up recently. Now, the first one I got from Arrow Video US, this is also available in the UK, and this is a region, all-region release from them, is a slasher film. And so I somehow had never heard of this in my life. But, you know, when I saw the announcement from them for this, I was really excited to finally see this movie because it looked like a really cool one. Slash film, like I said, I've never seen. It's called Blood Rage. And I have to say, to be honest with you guys, this is probably one of my favorite slasher films I've ever seen in my entire life. And probably one of the top ones ever, at least to me, because I like these kind of weird movies. I like movies that have really weird scenes and really strange things happening, and this movie has all of that. It also has some of the best, ahead of its time, gore that I've ever seen in like a low-budget slasher movie. There was some really effective stuff. It has on here too the original cut of the movie when they released it. It was all censored up, and you can watch and compare the cuts and see how they cut all the gore out. So a lot of the versions that people have seen this before has always been this cut up version. So you've never actually seen the full uncut edition of this. It also has a composite one when they put clips of the censored version and the uncensored one together, so they get everything, because the censored version has like these extra scenes at the pool and stuff like that. But the movie's basically, you know, about these two twin brothers who are at the drive in the beginning of the movie when they're kids. The moms are making out with this guy, and they kind of get grossed out by the whole thing. They end up leaving and, you know, walking around the drive, and the one brother ends up killing this couple at the drive-in, and he basically blames his twin brother for it and puts the weapon in his hands and makes it look like he was the one that did it. So the one brother that didn't do anything gets put away in the insane asylum for years. And then he's basically locked away his whole life. And this is like 20-some years later, and then the one brother ends up basically getting fed up. The one who was locked away for doing nothing gets fed up for the whole thing and ends up escaping from the nut house and ends up trying to go back to see his mother. And then when the brother that is the crazy one who's killed him in the beginning of the movie finds out about this, he starts his killing spree, killing off his friends and everybody in these really violent deaths. The mother in this movie was amazing. There's these insane sequences of her on the phone when she's like talking on the phone going, and she's like ordering a pizza, and she's like having this insane mental breakdown, which is like the craziest, insanest acting I've ever seen in my life, with her crying about things, talking to nobody, and she's shaking around and her hair's all messed up. She's like, I'm trying to figure out who to speak with, and she's having all these problems, and there's scenes with her eating green beans, leftover Thanksgiving on the food on the ground. It is amazing. I mean, this is a truly amazing slasher movie. It's truly ridiculous. It has on here some stuff on here going back to the locations, showing what they look like now. Some interviews with the mother, talking about how she really overacted in this. The interviews with the guy who was the killer, you know, who played both the brothers. But if you want a slasher film that you guys have not seen before, that's probably a seldom seen one you may not have even heard of. It has also the alternate cover for this. I would highly recommend checking this out too. And the transfer on this one, Ariel did an absolutely amazing job on the transfer for this one. Like I said, highest recommendation I could ever give to anything ever. I obsessed about this movie. The next one from Shout Factory is a double feature. You know, Shout Factory, Scream Factory line. This has The House Where Evil Dwells and Ghost Warrior. And these are two other ones that I had never heard of. Ghost Warrior was an Empire Pictures production. House Where Evil Dwells stars Susan George, who has always been a huge fan of her from Straw Dogs. That one movie when she was like, I think it was Shocker or not Shocker. I can't remember what it was. One movie when she was in the house. Like, she was in a bunch of different things that I really liked. But the movie that I liked the best on here was The House Where Evil Dwells. It's basically about a couple who goes to Japan. The guy's a photographer. He's kind of doing a story on Japan and things like that. And he ends up going there and moving into this house where in the beginning of the movie you see this couple. This one woman is cheating on her husband, and the husband comes in there and basically kills them with a samurai sword. Then he carries himself after he kills them, and they basically haunt this house. And this couple that ends up moving into the house, basically it's like history repeating itself, and they start to basically, there's these scenes of them going inside of their, like, possessing them, and you see these cool sequences, kind of like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. like the kind of ghostly effects when they kind of go into their body and then make them do things and make them say things. And there's this creepy sequence too in here with these crabs. Like, you're never going to think of crabs the same way again. Really creepy crabs. Like, I don't know. And there's these crazy sound effects and stuff like that when the ghosts are kind of possessing the house and moving things around. I don't know. It was really cool. I really love this movie. The ghosts kind of look like, if you've gone on the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney, they kind of look like that. And the other movie on here, Ghost Warrior, this is an Empire Picture film, was kind of like a before Encino Man movie. It was basically about a samurai warrior that gets trapped in ice, and he ends up getting discovered years later and taken to, out of ice, taken to Los Angeles, and they thaw him out and bring him back to life. And he's basically him being kind of trying to deal with the way things are now, and then kind of coaching him back. But of course something happens, he ends up escaping and going loose in LA, and it's kind of what ends up happening there. Like I said, I thought that was an okay movie, but I really loved The House Where Evil Dwells. That was a really, really cool movie. Both of them have really cool, really good new transfers on them. The next one from Shout Factory as well, Scream Factory's line is Over Your Dead Body, which is a Takashi Miike film, who was the director of Audition and Ichi the Killer. This movie is basically about a play company putting on this play, and the woman who's the lead of the play, she ends up, they don't get into too much detail, but basically her boyfriend is in the play with her, and as they're putting on this play, kind of things start to happen in their own lives that kind of rub off from the play, because the boyfriend is in the play is playing it a little bit, kind of like that movie Dangerous Game, kind of like things that were going on in the movie kind of carry over to real life, and the boyfriend becomes kind of rough, and he's very kind of getting very taking the role a little too far, and it's kind of starting to happen in real life, and then weird things start to happen in their own lives, and then the people who are in love with the girl in the play also end up being in love with her in real life, and it's all this kind of weird, creepy stuff going on. There's this creepy thing with this doll that you see in the movie too. I mean, I didn't get into this movie super well, but it has an English dub version as well. I thought it was okay. I thought there were some cool sequences to it. The idea was pretty good. Like I said, I couldn't totally get into the movie, but it has his kind of vibe to it. And if you're interested in the concept, it was, like I said, it worked pretty well, but it was somewhat hard to follow just a little bit. The next one from Universal, and this is one of my favorite movies of the year, and it has had some mixed opinions, but everything that Eli Roth has done, people always have been, kind of mixed opinions on his films. I personally have always liked them. I liked Hostel, I liked Cabin Fever, I liked Knock Knock, which Knock Knock wasn't his all-time greatest, but I really liked it though. But this one is probably one of my favorites, and you can tell that he really loves cannibal movies. And this is kind of like the first cannibal movie, and especially a cannibal movie that got released in theaters in years upon years upon years. And it's his kind of homage, his kind of version of Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox, which I really love those movies. This is Eli Roth's The Green Inferno, and this is the director's cut. And I believe the director's cut is the same version that played in theaters, I believe. Because from what I was looking on the trivia for this movie, it says that there was only one cut. But if anybody knows if there's... Because I couldn't tell for sure if there were major differences between it. But it has on here a commentary track with Eli Roth and a number of the cast members on this. But the movie's basically about this girl who is kind of wants to go with a group to follow, those groups that's about saving the rainforest, things like that. She likes this guy who's in the group, so she kind of wants to go there, to basically get closer to this guy, and she goes along with this group. Sky Ferreira is also in this movie as well in the beginning of the movie as her friend. But the movie's basically, though, she goes there, and, the whole thing is kind of a mess what they're trying to do, because they go in this area to try and stop them from digging up this part of the rainforest. But of course then that goes, and then something ends up happening. They end up getting escorted out of there, and the plane ends up going down. They end up going down this really bad area with these cannibals, and basically it's them there getting taken off by these cannibals, and there's some super gory things going on there. really gross out stuff, which I liked. I thought was really well done. And to me, like I said, I really love seeing a new cannibal movie because there's very few cannibal films. There really hasn't been one in theaters, and since Cannibal Ferox, I think, and really there hasn't. And I don't know. I really would recommend checking this out. Some people go on about picking it apart a little bit, and a lot of people too who have done reviews on this online. They've not seen Cannibal Ferox. They've not seen Cannibal Holocaust. If they have not seen them, they really shouldn't be reviewing this movie, because it's like, if you like this kind of a movie, you're going to like this. At least I think you will. It's that kind of a movie. If you're not aware of those kind of movies, or that's not your thing, I don't think it's going to work for you as well. But I think if people who are into them are really going to like them. And even if you want to see a creepy ass movie, and I think it's seriously creepy, the whole concept of what's going on, I would watch this. And I said I thought everybody did a really good job in this. Really like this movie. The next one is M. Night Shyamalan's new movie, The Visit, and it's another one that I really like. This is his take on the found footage films, and I thought this was very effective and also was very funny. I know he did different cuts of this movie, kind of when he was editing it. He did one without the comedy, one that was more straight horror. I liked that he kind of mixed between them and, kept these comedy elements into it. It kind of reminded me a little bit of that movie Grandmother's House, like a sort of a vibe of that movie, but it's called The Visit. It's basically about these kids who go to see their grandparents while the mother is going away on this trip. She kind of is getting away on this cruise. And that she kind of just wants to get away, so she drops them off with the grandparents that she hasn't seen in years, because when she was a kid, she kind of had a fight with them and ended up leaving them. So she hasn't seen them in like 20-some years. So the grandkids go in to see her, and she kind of wants to know what they're like and what they're up to. So she kind of sends the kids to kind of scope them out and everything. And that's kind of like, spying on them is basically what she wanted them to do. But of course they get there, and there's the very weird stuff about the grandparents. They're doing really weird things, and they come across really weird sequences of stuff happening with the grandparents. And I don't know, and it's all done, like I said, found footage style, because the one kid is basically filming it to try and get the footage to show to the mother so she can kind of watch it and see what they're like, and then see if she wants to even bother pursuing going to see them again, or she just wants to just live vicariously through their video. But it's basically though just what ends up happening and the weird stuff to this movie. But I thought it was very creepy and really, really funny and really worked. I really liked it. I really love the grandparents in this as well. Has on here though alternate ending, deleted scenes, the making of The Visit. But I would recommend checking this out. I really thought that, because a lot of his movies recently after The Village kind of got a lot of negativity, but I love The Devil. I know he only wrote that movie and produced that movie, but that was really good. The next one too, a lot of people didn't like this one. It got a lot of negativity, and I liked it. And I thought the kids were really creepy too, and the one kid reminded me of my cousin when I was a kid. I could just like this guy. And it was called Sinister 2, and I really liked the first Sinister, and I liked this movie. And it was basically though, the Bagul character. It's about a mother and her two twin sons who's basically kind of hiding out from her husband. She just ends up going to hide out in this kind of abandoned house. Of course, the abandoned house was all these terrible things in the past happened there. And it's basically the one cop from the first movie kind of going around investigating Bagul and the occurrences of where it happened and things like that. So he ends up stumbling upon where they are and tries to kind of warn them about this place. But it's basically though the one brother is kind of seeing the ghost kids that Bagul has killed and taken into the film, because in the movie they find footage of the way that they were all getting killed and these terrible torturous things that happened to the parents and stuff like that. And it's basically though the one brother is kind of seeing the visions, and he's kind of trying to be coached in to doing what Bagul wants. I don't know. I like this. Like I said, I don't know what the problem is with this movie, why some people didn't like it. I like the setting. It kind of reminded me too of Children of the Corn a little bit. It had that kind of vibe to it. And I like creepy kids movies when it's weird kids doing creepy things, and it has a whole lot of that in this. It has on here though deleted scenes, the making of Sinister 2, and extended kill films on it, the kill films that they watch. But I would watch it. I really liked it. The next one is another one that I really like. This update has a lot of really good things. Some updates are kind of mixed bags. This update, a lot of stuff I really liked. This is another one I really like called Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, and this is from Paramount. And, this is one that I wanted to see in theaters but had a really limited release, so I didn't get to go to it. But luckily enough, it came out soon after. This is basically, though, about a group of kids, teenagers who were in the Boy Scouts. And in the beginning of the movie, you see the one guy from Workaholics. He's working in this kind of medical facility, dancing around in these songs, screwing around, mopping up. And he kind of goes back into this area where this guy's doing testings and stuff like that, and sees this kind of roped off area with this body in there. And he starts messing around with it. Of course, he screws around with it, and then it's a zombie that ends up biting him, and then it starts the whole zombie thing of spreading around. And the kids who are out there going out on an overnight camp out end up going out there, the Boy Scouts for their overnight thing. And basically, though, the zombies all come and take over the town while they're there. It's kind of them having to try and survive and fight the zombies and things like that. And they get the help of one of their friends that they went to school with, who's now a stripper, and she's kind of going around with them. The one guy, too, who's from Anchorman, things like that, plays the scout leader. And there are some really, really funny sequences with him in this. And he kept coming back as a zombie. I don't know. I thought this was a really fun zombie movie, kind of in the vibe of humor of Return of the Living Dead 2. It was a better movie than Return of the Living Dead 2, because Return of the Living Dead 2, I love that movie, but still wasn't a perfect movie. But this had that kind of vibe of the comedic aspects of that, because it was definitely a real comedy horror movie. It's basically them, though, trying to survive and things like that, and trying to get to this party where the girl that they like was at, and that's essentially the plot of the movie. But I would recommend this movie. It has on here some making ofs on here and deleted scenes, but really, really fun zombie movie. The next one, I got this one off of Amazon. This is a Canadian release, but you just search on their Turbo Kid Turbo Kid Steelbook if you guys are interested in this. And this is, Raven Banner released this one. I believe it's going to be coming out in the U.S. as well soon. But this is the exclusive steelbook of the movie. And this is a movie that a lot of people were messaging me about, asking me if I've seen it, what I thought of it. I also saw on Instagram a lot of people posting one of their favorite movies and how much they liked it. And it originally was made as a short. There was intended to be on ABCs of Death, and I don't think they ended up including it on there. But then they expanded upon it and making a full feature, and it's really cool, post-apocalyptic, very 80s, all 80s type of score, and the music is 80s style, all the wardrobe and everything in this, and it's basically kind of too like those Italian, Mad Max knockoff ones, Brooklyn Warriors and all those kind of ones that they made in the 80s, those Italian ones. It kind of takes from that to have that. It's kind of trying to be like that kind of a vibe, but different though. And it was actually really, really well done. Michael Ironside plays the villain in this. It was really cool. He's kind of like Dennis Hopper in Waterworld. It had a Waterworld vibe to it as well, but it's basically about this kid who's been surviving on his own for years in this post-apocalyptic future where everybody is killing everybody, and there's all these crazy people out there. And he kind of idolizes with this Turbo Man character, like this in the comic books, and he kind of makes his own suit, and he ends up meeting this girl out there that he becomes friends with, and it's basically, though, something ends up happening that Michael Ironside's character is basically coming after him, trying to kill him, and there's it's an extreme gore film too, really, really cool, over-the-top gore. I don't know, I would highly recommend this, another top recommendation one. I really like this one a lot, and here's a little look at the steelbook as well, and a look inside at it. But really, really cool one, and I love this edition of this one. The next one from Image is Condemned. This is another one I liked, and I didn't even realize until after I was watching the features on this. It stars Sean Penn's daughter, who's been acting recently. She's going to also be in that movie Elvis and Nixon, I believe. This movie's called Condemned, and this is a very cool, Troma-esque movie. It has the vibe of Slime City mixed with street trash. That kind of ultra gory, gross, disgusting kind of scenes in this movie. It was basically about this girl who leaves her parents are basically fighting. She wants to get out there, so she ends up moving in with the boyfriend. The boyfriend is basically living in this condemned New York City apartment that he's kind of squatting in with his two friends. And she ends up going there to this place where he's squatting out and living in there. And there's all these kind of weird characters there. There's a drug dealer there. There's this sadomasochistic couple. There's the old man who kind of keeps the lights on. He's making these strange machines. You don't know what they are, but when they reveal them, it's like, that's what he was making. And there's these two these couple that are upstairs doing all these drugs. But basically, though, and there's also a guy who's making drugs and selling them and things like that, and he hides them in fortune cookies. But basically, he's flushing all this disgusting stuff from the drug residue down the toilet, and it's kind of making people in the building sick, and they're kind of turning them into these really screwed up, like zombie-like kind of weird, deranged creatures. And then the one drug guy ends up going out to sell his fortune cookies with the drugs, and he locks the door because he doesn't want anyone coming in to the place they're squatting in. So basically, they all get trapped in this building, and he got hit by a car, so that's basically why the people are all in there trapped trying to get out. But this was really a great movie. I mean, this was really, I loved this, and it was really gross, and the sadomasochistic couple, though, too, were really creepy, and he had these really creepy lines. I don't know what that guy was from, but he was really cool, and he had these really, he kind of was talking like one of the Wahlburgers. He's like, well, you Wahlburgers, you come here, you can't throw your twats out. I don't know, he was like talking about the trash, and it was, I don't know, it was a great movie. But definitely check this out. It has on here, too, a feature, too, like from Entertainment Tonight, talking about, I mean, that's how I realized it was Sean Penn's daughter, and also has on here cast interviews and script reading, and a live audio commentary, like with the audience watching it. The next one from Sony is the, Robert Zemeckis' new film that Joseph Gordon-Levitt stars in called The Walk. This is the true story about the guy who, wanted to basically tightrope walk between between the Twin Towers. It's like a true story. I feel like, I never had heard of this story before, but as like I said, it's all a true story. It's basically, though, about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character who has the idea and the dream. It kind of starts with his life about how he started doing the walking and how he was trained and how that was like everything that he really wanted to do. And when he saw this ad in a travel agency for the Twin Towers, how he had this idea that that was his ultimate dream, was to walk across there. And it's basically about him trying to make that happen and how he does, because, like I said, it's a true story, and what he does to actually make it happen. So a really, really well-made, positive movie, too. And I thought Joseph Gordon-Levitt did a really good job on this. Has on here, though, deleted scenes, The Amazing Walk, some featurettes on the movie. And it also was a 3D movie. This is not the 3D edition, but I think I don't know if they released it in 3D or not on Blu-ray. But it might be. I'm not sure. But when I saw it in theaters, though, I saw the 3D edition of it. The next one from Sony as well is Joe Dirt 2, and this is the extended edition. This was a movie that was filmed for Crackle. I think that was what it was released for. And this, to be honest, was just okay. I did not like this that much. I mean, I was hoping I would. The other movie I liked better, though. I watched Ridiculous 6, on Netflix. I thought that was a better movie. This movie didn't really feel too much like a movie. It had this, I don't know how to explain it. It just didn't feel movie-ish to me. And, I don't know. And it's basically, though, the Joe Dirt's character, and it's kind of him years later talking about how things in his life fell apart. And he's kind of sitting on a bench, kind of like, Forrest Gump telling his tale to this woman on the bench about what had happened. And in the movie, though, he ends up getting transported to the past because he goes into a tornado, and he gets taken to the past before he's married, way back in the 60s. And it's kind of like him trying to figure out how he's going to get out of there, and how he's also not going to go and screw up his future life. And that's basically what it is. It's kind of like that Back in Time movie, he's trying to figure out how he's going to fix things in his life and stuff like that. That's essentially what it is. It has on here, though, the never before seen cut, the extended edition of the movie. I mean, I guess it's worth maybe renting or so, or watching on Crackle, but I didn't like it that much. I really didn't. I thought I was going into this. And I really didn't. I don't know why. It's something about it. I just didn't like it that much. The next one, and now I'm going to announce here, and I've also talked about this on Facebook, I now have a region-free Blu-ray player. So now I'm going to definitely be doing reviews of, UK releases, and I can watch them now. So, I actually was looking through this just a few minutes ago, some of the features and stuff on this, and the edition and everything. I can't show the cover because it's pretty gross, but this is the Arrow UK edition, so this is a Region B release of Necromantic 2, and there's a lot of stuff on here I can't show because it's pretty gross, but it's got a booklet in here, and it's also got the CD, the soundtrack CD. But Necromantic 2 is basically picks up after the first movie about this woman who's obsessed with a murderer, in the first movie, the guy, and she ends up digging up his body and basically wants to sleep with him and things like that. It's a very gross, strange film, but she also ends up meeting this guy that she likes, and it's kind of like, what's she gonna do to this guy? It's a really, really weird movie with really amazing music, like the score and everything. I mean, I really like this movie. Some people get really grossed out by these movies, and they are gross. But I don't know, I really like them. But it has on here, though, exclusive to the Arrow release, and I was just watching through these, it has the director and one of the cast members going back to the locations and showing what they look like now. It has a new making of on it, interviews and things like that. It had on here some music videos and some short films, but it also, like I said, it has a DVD edition of this as well, and the soundtrack, which has the complete, Necromantic 2 score. So I really love the music in this. But like I said, I'm definitely going to be doing more, Region B releases, so let me know some of the ones to get. I want to try and order Clown, but I think that's, hard to get now. There's a lot, below, guys, let me know some things, and some companies too that are in the UK and stuff, because I don't know that. I mean, I know Arrow UK and 88 Films are two of the main ones that I know. The next one from Paramount is Sleeping with Other People. This is a Will Ferrell produced movie and stars Jason Sudeikis, and Alison Brie. And it's basically, though, about, in the beginning of the movie, they're in these two friends, these people who are at college, and they basically have this one-night stand together and have this one-night hookup. And it's them years later, and they end up meeting. And they're both having all these kind of issues in their lives with commitment and cheating around and all these kind of things. When they meet again, they kind of don't really want to sleep together again. They kind of just want to help each other out and try and figure out why they've had so many issues in the past and why they continue to have all these kind of problems with relationships and stuff like that, hoping that they can maybe help each other. And that's essentially what it is but yet at the same time they really still have feelings for each other, and what's going to end up happening with that. Natasha Lyonne is also in this movie as well. I thought this movie was alright. Not an amazing romantic kind of film, but overall, I guess would say worth renting or so. The next one is another one I was definitely interested in seeing. This is called Captive. Stars David Oyelowo and Kate Mara, and this is basically about this woman who is having all kinds of problems with drugs and things like that. She's in a drug treatment facility, and she's in danger of losing. She basically can't see her daughter. The daughter's with her mother, and she's having all kinds of problems. This woman there at treatment tells her to read this book, and this book might end up helping her out. And at the same time, David Oyelowo's character ends up breaking out of. He's in court, and he ends up saying that he didn't do what he did, and he ends up basically escaping and killing these people on the way out, and ends up taking Kate Mara's character hostage. It's kind of them together, and then she kind of tells about the book, and it's kind of them trying to help each other out through their problems. And that's essentially what it was. It was a relatively well-made movie. I didn't get into it too much. I kind of lost the interest in a little bit by near the end of it, to be honest, with some of it. But I thought that it was okay. So some of these things in here I really loved, and this one I just didn't love it as much. It's got a kind of a faith-based message to it to a degree, but very well acted and things like that. But I said this didn't hold my interest too much. The next one, and these were fun movies. The main one I'm going to talk about though is Axe, and this is one I feel like I never saw this movie. I think I used to see the DVD of it all the time at Borders Books years back when it first came out. I think Something Weird, I believe, might have released it. And this has got a double pack of Axe and Kidnapped Coed, and it also has Bloody Brothers, which basically the director cut together Axe and Kidnapped Coed together into one movie, and put some narration and stuff like that to kind of tie it together. It also has on here the soundtracks and commentary tracks on them, and a making of both of the movies as well. But that Axe movie is basically about these kind of criminals in the beginning of the movie that kill this guy, and they end up kind of going on the run. And they're kind of bumbling criminals, and they're kind of doing weird things. There's a scene when they go to this convenience store, and they're throwing around things and harassing this woman, and they basically end up going and hiding out in this girl's house who's taking care of her sick father, who's wheelchair bound. And the girl's pretty much like a Lizzie Borden type. She's kind of really strange and to herself and really odd acting. But of course they end up going into this house, and they don't realize that they've gone to the house of someone who's pretty much crazy, who's going to take the axe to them, and that's pretty much what it is. But it was really fun, weird movie. It's a very short movie. It's only 67 minutes long, but really fun. Like, totally kept me interested and really weird. And like I said, very Lizzie Borden-esque kind of vibe movie, and really great transfers on both of these movies. But Axe is a really probably one a lot of you guys have not seen, and really would recommend it. And I said, like, the other one was cool as well, but I really loved Axe. Like, Axe was great. The next one is another one I was interested in seeing, and like I think someone put as a trivia factor on IMDb that it was a remake of Duel, but I don't think it really was because it doesn't credit the writer, and it's similar to Duel in a way. It's got that similar kind of vibe, and it's called Wrecker. And the movie's basically though about these two girls who are going on this trip, and they're kind of lying to the one's boyfriend about what they're doing, and they're kind of driving through like the California type desert area, and they end up going off in this area where it's like Devil's Pass, and they kind of think it's like a shortcut. They don't really know for sure if it's even the right way to go, but they go, oh, well, if we get lost, it'd be an adventure. Of course, so they go on this road, and there's this gigantic truck. They try and pass it, and by passing it, they piss this truck off, and the truck is basically, because the guy behind it, or whoever it is, continuously, like, tails them, and keeps speeding up in front of them, and keeps on basically bothering them, and every time they get off, and they go to a rest stop, the guy keeps on coming. It's essentially what it is, and what this guy's problem is, and how they're going to get away from the guy, because he keeps on finding ways to get ahead of them, and things like that, even though they have this really fast car. That's like one complaint people were saying was like, how is this truck catching up with them? But I'm thinking it's like, well, you don't know. It's like there's something about this truck. I don't know, I kind of liked it. I read, too, that the one actress, so I don't know if it's true, like, end up, like, quitting before the movie was done, so that's why, like, she kind of vanishes in the movie, and I kind of guess that could have happened, maybe because there was, like, this one scene of her, maybe they said, if you film this, you can leave. I'm guessing maybe that happened. I don't know. I don't know if that's, like, a fake thing someone put up, but I read that. But I kind of liked it, though. It's kind of, like I said, got, like, a Duel kind of Maximum Overdrive kind of vibe to it. The next one from IFC, MPI's IFC line is Deathgasm. This is another one that I heard a lot of people talk about. And it's basically, though, it kind of has like a Trick or Treat, the 80s movie Trick or Treat kind of vibe about it's like this rock group that are kind of trying to make like metal and things like that. And they don't really fit in very well at their school. And there's this one record that they really want and they want to buy because it's like a really rare one that's signed in blood from this kind of band, the front runner of it kind of vanished. They kind of track down where the guy is to go and steal his copy of it because they figured out where he was, and then he's like, you see someone coming after this guy, and the guy's like gives it to the kid and says, guard this record with your life. And they go inside the record and realize that there's this sheet music in it, and they think, oh, we should play this song, and maybe this song we could make this into a song for us. Of course, they play this song, and it starts to like turn the people into like zombie-like people around them, these zombie-like creatures and things like that. And it's kind of it kind of has like a Detroit Rock City kind of vibe to it a little bit, mixed with like a zombie kind of Shaun of the Dead kind of thing too. And I thought it was actually pretty good. Like some of it like drags a little bit in some spots, but I actually did like this a lot. And there was some cool gore in this, some cool sequences as well in this. The next one, this is from Film Rise, and they released a Blu-ray. This is a burn-on-demand Blu-ray release. And this is a movie that I really like, so I was glad that it's on Blu-ray. Because I have the DVD. This as well. This is, Robert Englund film called The Last Showing. And me, I love movies in like malls. I love movies in movie theaters. I love movies in those kind of things. And this was all set in a movie theater. And it's Robert Englund. It's a film that he shot in the UK. It's basically about him as a kind of disgruntled projectionist at a movie theaters. And he ends up basically kind of wanting to make his own movie. So like this couple that's in there, he ends up trying to like filming them and kind of making their life a living hell while they're locked in this movie theaters, trying to make a movie out of the whole thing. It's a really cool, creepy movie in a really great setting. Looks good on Blu-ray. Like I said, I was glad that there's a Blu-ray release of this as well released. But like I said, you can get this on Amazon everywhere as well. But check this one out. It's a very cool, all set in the movie theaters. Robert Englund was really cool in this and pretty cool vibe. Like, every time I go to the movies, I kind of think, like, imagine if this happened. There was like a disgruntled projectionist in the theater, and he was doing this. Then the next one from Cinedigm I was really interested in seeing this one because Jared Cohen, who's a friend of mine I was in his movie called The Valley Drowner, directed this one, and it's called Little Dead Riding Hood. And this is released by Asylum, one of their new movies. And it's basically though it stars the one actress from who's one of the main girls in the Ouija film, and she was also in The Duff. It's basically, though, kind of like a crazy version of Little Red Riding Hood. And at the beginning of the movie, you see the grandmother ends up basically sacrificing the daughter and kind of doing something to her, or her daughter to like make something happen to her where she kind of has to become the guardian of these wolves and kind of protecting these wolves that are around there killing people. So you see these wolves kind of taking over the town and like attacking people, and so all these kind of deaths and stuff like that. And she kind of has to be kind of like the protector of the people. So she kind of vanishes and then comes back in the movie is like when she's reborn again as this new character who's kind of protecting the town and things like that. That's essentially what it was. Has a bunch of different people on this movie. Like I said, she's in the movie. Eric Balfour, I believe that's why you say his name. He was, from 6 Feet Under and a number of he was in Backpackers recently. It was a really great killer bear movie. This is, like I said, a pretty cool, like, weird take on Little Red Riding Hood. The next one is another one I was really interested in seeing. This is called Kill Game, and this is from Cinedigm as well. And this is basically, like, about these, like, terrible kids that do these kind of pranks. They've done all these horrible pranks to people, in school, and like some really bad ones. Like they really made things in the kids' lives that they did it to really terrible things that happened to them because of it. They like got, terrible things with their parent. I mean, like really the worst pranks possible. And, this is years later after high school. People who were involved in the pranks start kind of like dying off, and it's kind of like trying to figure out who was behind this and who was killing them off. It's got like a kind of a Know What You Did Last Summer kind of vibe to it, and there's some really crazy deaths and stuff like this. Like, and like this one like girl in here like having like this surgery done, and like this crazy death with her at the surgery, and the one is wearing this like really weird mask. Whoever it is going around killing everybody. I don't know. I thought this was actually a pretty fun movie. I mean, it's got like a cheesy ass vibe to it. But I kind of like this. I thought it was like a weird slasher movie. The next one from RLJ Image is Robo Dog, and stars Wallace Shawn. And I always like these kind of dog movies, and I always watch all these dog movies. And it kind of has like a downer premise though. It's kind of sad a little bit because it's like the one guy who's this inventor, his dog, the dog ends up getting killed, and the son is really upset about it because the dog gets like trapped in the attic and dies from the heat. It was like kind of a sad way the dog went, but basically though, the kid is really depressed about it and what has happened, and so he ends up kind of trying to create a robotic dog, and he ends up creating a robotic dog exactly like his dog that passed away. But of course, though, the corporation that he was working at, where he got fired from for one reason or another, kind of discovers about this dog, and they're trying to steal it back. So that's kind of like the conflict is trying to get the dog. But I kind of like this. I always like Wallace Shawn, and the one actress who plays the mother was the sister in The Wonder Years. I don't know. I kind of like this one, though. Like I said, it was kind of a sad thing a little bit. And I always like these kind of dog films. The next one from Image as well is Painkillers. And this is basically a movie about these kind of these Marines these Army guys that are in Iraq. It's a whole group of them. And something has ended up happening to them. And a lot of them have kind of vanished. And they kind of wake up, a lot of them have gone missing, and the other ones that haven't wake up in this kind of weird vicinity, like a hospital type, strange kind of hospital, and they're kind of wondering what is going on and why are they there. And they're kind of trying to do this kind of technique to them to try and make them have their memories back, because for some reason they can't remember anything. They try and make them have the memories of, so they can try and remember what had happened to them, why some of them have gone missing, what ended up happening to them. And it's basically though, them going through these encounters, trying to figure out what has happened to them, and going through these testings and things like that. I thought this was relatively interesting, kind of science fiction kind of vibe movie. Some pretty cool settings to this as well. And that's essentially what it is too. Is basically what happened to them while they're there. The next one from Vinegar Syndrome is that, Vinegar Syndrome's line, Exploitation TV, is a movie called Corruption. This is one that I was really interested in seeing. The director of this also directed the movie Last House on Dead End Street. The movie's basically like an adult kind of film, very artsy and things like that, about this guy who works in this office building, gets sent on this job to this place where he goes to these weird encounters with these women, and it's like these weird colored rooms. It definitely has kind of got like a David Lynch kind of, like if David Lynch directed like a really arty adult film kind of vibe, and it's like him this guy thrown in this weird world and the weird things that happened to him by going in there. But the cool thing on this edition too was, it's a really great transfer on this one, but also has on here is a hidden feature. Now, Vinegar Syndrome is also going to be releasing a Blu-ray release of this as well, for a better transfer. But they kind of had on here as an Easter egg, Last House on Dead End Street, which is one that I always wanted to see about these people making the snuff film. And it's kind of got like a Last House on the Left kind of vibe to it. But that's actually on here in like a real grindhouse, gritty, scratched up edition you actually can find on here. I'm not going to say how, but you find it's an Easter egg, so it's kind of like it took me like a little while to figure it out, though. They did a good job hiding it. But it's a cool, weird movie, and it was really cool, too, that was hidden on there, because I saw a lot of people talking about, something was hidden on there, I didn't know what it was, and I figured it out, and that was that. And the last one on here is a movie called, the director sent me, because I watched his other movie, Die Die Delta Pi, and I really like that. This movie's got more of kind of like an adult kind of vibe to it. It's not an adult film or anything, but it's like really like goes for it with certain things. But it's called Death Escort Service, and it's basically about these girls who work in this escort service, and somebody's going around killing them one by one, and there's all these like super violent, gross deaths in this movie. And there's this one scene too with this old man, and you're never gonna forget this scene with this old man. I mean, you see more of this old man than you were expecting. I mean, you're not going to forget that. I don't think I'm ever going to forget that weird scene with the old man. And it's going to kind of live on. But really, really good gore effects. Marcus Cook, who did the effects in the movie that I was in, Girls Gone Dead, he's done effects on a lot of movies, did the effects in this. So he does super realistic, grossed out, kind of well done gore, but his effects in this were really cool. You can get this movie on Amazon. But if you want to see like kind of an out there slasher film, check this out. But anyway though, guys, that was all for this DVD Blu-ray update. Sorry sometimes the videos are long, but sometimes I have a lot of stuff to talk about. And I like certain ones too I really like to, talk about a lot more than others, because I have a lot of stuff to say about them. Anyway though, guys, thanks again for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.